So a bit later, we are now four-handed, where the small blind in this hand has actually doubled up versus someone else. It's not the old Nick guy, though. I know that much. And it's not the guy to my left. I forget who it was. It was the fifth guy in the tournament. And this hand comes up with 5-9 suited in the big blind, and he limps our small blind. Now, real quick, I have a lot of notes on how our blind versus blinds have been. He's limped once before, 10 big blinds. Here we are at 20, though. Approximately 20. Effectively. So anyways, at 10 big blinds, he did limp once and folded to my shove. That was probably the first time he had limped into me. And he also had shoved himself once for 10 big blinds. And so now he's doubled his stack and he's limped again. So he's probably expecting me to be relatively aggressive versus his limps. I mean, we have a small history now, so I definitely think that he's going to have some kind of trapping range mixed in with his marginal stuff that he likes to limp. So I decide, though I probably would be raising versus someone that I didn't have any history with. Flop comes ace7. He checks, which is a little bit weird. I feel like people that limp usually are just stabbing all of their air, so I'm still a bit suspicious. And if he was trapping pre with some ace-x or any kind of pair, really any pocket pair above sevens, let's say, then he's going to be loving this flop and looking for check raises and stuff. So I decided to check back, take it easy. If he checks again, I'll probably stab. He does check again, and I do stab a little bit more than half pot. Or maybe actually, sorry, there's 600 before this, and there's 900 now, so it's exactly half pot. I think the big blind is 300 actually, so it's definitely half. It's a min bet. And he kind of, not super quickly, but he check raises relatively quickly. He didn't think that long about it. And again, going with my pre-flop trap kind of paranoia, I decided to just let this one go. Flatting here really makes no sense. 3-betting might make a little bit of sense, but not really. It's really hard for me to rep anything big if I don't raise pre and I don't bet the flop. So my range is really capped, and his range might have some traps, might not, but because the perception of my range shouldn't be anything that good, it's going to be hard for me to outbluff him. So I just let it go at this point. So in the meantime, we're now down 3-handed, but in the meantime, the old Nick guy busted to a ridiculous like runner straight flush that out-binked the old Nick guy's like nut flush, which is really bad. Well, not actually, yeah, it was very bad for me. I mean, the other guy was just gonna like waiting for anyone to run him over, and he was about to win a big double up against a solid player, the guy to my left that I mentioned earlier. And he just lost a huge pot and got busted by him. So a little bit disappointed about that. So now we're down 3-handed. I've got about 9,000 chips. That guy still got around 6,000 after a couple orbits later. And that means this guy should have around 5,000. So I'm still in the lead, but anything can happen. And we didn't even talk chop or anything. Again, people do chop a lot in these events, that even though they're winner take all. Most often the chop will just happen heads up, and of course sometimes no one chops heads up, which is fine too. But the variance can be pretty high if you're playing anyone competent, and you're playing for like $5,000. It sucks to just be like shoving 15 big blind stacks or 10 big blind stacks into each other for $5,000. So anyway, moving right along, there's basically these guys are basically both kind of solid and kind of tricky. This guy here in the small blind is the guy who just sort of check raised me on the turn last hand. I'm not really happy about it. Here he raises the small blind, which I think is the first non-all-in raise, which is somewhat interesting. He's basically done a little bit of everything. He's limp folded, he's limped and then check raised the turn, and he's shoved once with 10 big blinds. Granted, some of those are at different stack sizes since, again, we're still at 20 big blinds now. But still, he's been mixing up his play, and he's certainly not been playing very straightforwardly after the way that last hand went down. Anyway, I do consider shoving or 3-betting in general here, but I figure that King 10 is a really good value hand that by flatting I can keep in a lot of weaker stuff, a lot of dominated stuff. Plays really well post-flop and even better in position. And so 3-betting really just turns my hand into a bluff, which isn't that bad if I had some read that he's raising a lot, but he really hasn't been raising a lot. He's been limping a bit, more than a decent player normally would. So his raising range is pretty unknown to me, and so yeah, everything points to a very standard call. Although 3-betting does have its merits just for pure fold equity, since in these tournament, being that this is actually a change, I take that back. Being that this is a winner-take-all, fold equity has a lot less, not a lot less, but a little bit less value here.